Hello guys, and welcome to the third C programming tutorial in our series. Just to recap, in the last tutorial we learned about customizing the output printed onto the screen as well as commenting our code. I left you with a challenge, and that was to print off 1 through 10 vertically onto your screen, 1 being at the top and 10 being at the bottom. In this tutorial we're going to learn about how you would go about doing that, as well as some variable declarations and operations. So let's jump to it. Here you'll see I have written a line of code that prints out 1 through 3 vertically on the screen. Let's go through it. 1 followed by the escape character for new line, 2 followed by the escape character for new line, and 3 followed by the escape character for new line, \n. And if we print it, you can see 1, 2, 3. So cool. We have accomplished our objective. We've printed numbers vertically onto the screen. What if we wanted to go about doing this in a different way? Printing an output is possibly the weakest form of a program. What if we wanted to manipulate the top number without actually having to go into the print statement, erase it, and put in a new number? Well, we can do this by assigning a variable to the top number. Let me show you what I mean by that. We're going to work with 3 numeric type variables in these basic tutorials for the most part. There might be some special cases, but these 3 numeric types are int, double, and float. And as you see, these are all reserved words. They all went blue and bold when I typed them in, because they're all reserved for variable types. An integer is a whole number. A double is a number with a decimal place, and a float is a number with a lot of decimal places. There's better ways to think about these, but for now this is sufficient, and this is what should come to mind whenever you see double or float. We'll go over these more in depth in a later variable video. But for now, we're going to work with int. So we want to be able to customize this first number in our print statement without actually having to go into print and erase it every single time. So let's name a variable for this first number. Let's name it first number. Oh. This is called camel lettering, and there's a few different names for it. That's kind of loose terminology. When you declare a variable, typically, unless it is a constant, which we'll get to later, the first letter of the variable name is a lowercase, and if there's another word, that is uppercased in the variable. Valid variable names are names that begin with an underscore or a letter. So if I had named this 1 first number, you can see that it's not a valid variable name. The color changes, and it won't work if I try to initialize it to a number value. Furthermore, you can't do operation symbols within a variable name, and you can't do, I think I'm forgetting something. If I remember it, I'll come back to it. But just remember, when you're declaring your variables, make it make sense for your program, and make it a variable name with letters, or this underscore sign will also work. These are valid in variable names. So first number. Let's set our first number to 1. So what this says is I want you to find a place in memory, and that place in memory is now called first number. And in that place in memory, I want the compiler to store the value 1. So now whatever first number is, I want you to store the value 1. So now the value of 1 is stored in first number. If we want to change our print statement to print off whatever the value of first number is, we can do this. %d inside of the print statement. So what this says is when the compiler or the CPU is reading it to execute, it says, I want you to print an integer value that I will specify later in this command, and then a new line, and then 2, and then a new line, and then 3. The way you specify what integer value to print is a comma after your quotations, but inside of your parentheses, and then the variable name, first number. And you can see it pops up there. So what this says is I want you to print the value stored inside a first number. And if we build this and run it, sure enough, we still get 1, 2, 3. So great. We've accomplished this by storing a number value in a variable and then printing off that variable. But why is this so strong? Why is this better than just putting 1 in this spot? Well, because we can manipulate it. Let's do the same thing with the second variable and the third variable. I'm going to name my second variable B. You can name yours whatever you want. And I'm going to name my third variable C. And when you first declare a variable, it's called initialization. And this is where you print int, the variable name, and then a value. It is initialized to the initial value of 2. So in this print statement right here, we need to also change it to %d and then %d. And then we need to print these off respective to each other. So if we have %d, 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 this says, okay, I'm going to print the first variable that I see after the comma. The second one says I'm going to print the second variable I see after the comma, which we said for me is B. For you it can be anything. And then this %d says I'm going to print the third variable I see after this comma. So let's see if it works. Build and run, and sure enough we get 1, 2, and 3. So we're about to learn why this is cool. Say I want to change my first number. I want to manipulate it in some way. Well, we can always change the value of variables. In this case, let's take our first number and set it equal to C plus B. Notice I do not have an int here. If you say int first number, this tells the computer that first number is always going to be an integer. I'm not going to change that. So you don't need to say it again when you're manipulating that variable. So we say first number equals C plus B. I want you to find first number in memory, and I want its value to be 3, which is C, plus 2, which is B. 3 plus 2. So we should get 5, 2, and 3 printed out. And sure enough, 5, 2, and 3. So this is really cool. We can do arithmetic and we can output it on the screen without having to do it by hand and then change this to a 5. Or change this to the product of our arithmetic. This makes our program much stronger. We can also do things like first number equals first number plus 1. I know the first time I saw this, it kind of blew my mind. A variable equals itself plus 1. But if you think about it as just that, it makes a lot more sense. What is first number here? Oh, as I said in the last tutorial, the compiler, when it compiles your code, it does it line by line. So it looks through and it says, okay, int first number equals 1. There's a place in memory called first number, and it now equals 1. But wait, it goes through B equals 2, C equals 3, and then it sees first number again, and it says, oh wait, I have to change that. First number now equals 3, plus 2. So first number is now 5. But wait, here's first number again. I have to change it again. So first number now equals 5 from here plus 1. So first number is 6. This is an important thing to note because this will get you. Teachers like to ask about this when you're first learning to code, and this stops some people up. The left side is always the side that represents the variable. So the right side is values, the left side is the variable. Meaning this is where the computer stores a value in the variable. These are the values that it stores. So first number in this case just represents 5. First number in this case represents the variable first number. So if we print this off again, we get 6, 2, 3. And that makes sense because first number equals c plus b, which is 5, plus 1, which is 6. First number's value here is 6. So that's pretty cool. There's another way to do this though that I'm going to show you because it's used so often. Very often in C, we need to increment a variable by 1. And the way that we do that is the variable name and then plus plus. This is purely syntax. And this just says add 1 to whatever the current value of their variable is. It's the same as first number equals first number plus 1. So if we build this and run it, we will still get 6. This goes the other direction too. If you want to subtract 1, we'll do first number minus minus, which will give us c plus b, which is 5, minus minus 1 will give us 4. 4, 2, 3. Sure enough. Okay, let's see how we're doing on time. Alright. So with this, we'll do more parts of these variable tutorials. There's not really a challenge for this tutorial. I encourage you to play with variable declaration and basic arithmetic. Try multiplying and dividing variables and see what happens. You will be surprised if you try to divide some of these variables. We'll go over why in the next tutorial. But yeah, for now, print different integers, manipulate integers in different ways. Just kind of get familiar with that system, and we'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye guys.